Welcome to News and Views. I'm Danae Jones and it's my pleasure to bring you this week's segment. Today we're at the Chambers and we're catching up with Linda Cooper, LNP candidate for Barron River, to have an up-close and personal chat about what she hopes to achieve should she gain office at the upcoming state election. Welcome to News and Views, Linda.
Thank you, Danae.
So this is your first time on the show, but we've known each other a very long time.
I was just thinking about that. I think you were Danae Fairweather 10 News.
Yeah,
and that
back
would have
in the
been
day.
about 1999 or 2000.
Yeah,
Is that right?
2000. Yeah, absolutely. That's how long ago.
I know, there you
20
go.
years.
Yeah.
And back then you were on radio. So for those that don't know, that didn't know you back then, you were a very high-profile radio announcer here in our local community.
Yeah, so Rabbit and Coops was on Hot FM when it was known as Hot FM back at that period of time. So, which was a fantastic part of my life. So I was on there for about 4 years, and I think the really exciting part about that is radio gives you a great opportunity to work with so many different parts of the community. So, you know, you're always working with obviously the business community, but also with a lot of different community groups, the sporting groups, the schools, the charitable organisations. So you grow a really beautiful network around you, and I loved using that time on radio to work with those groups. So it was a great part of my life.
Well, we have fond memories of you on air, and then after that happened, you ended up venturing into politics. So how did that come to be? What gave you, I guess, the inspiration to want to be in politics?
So it was a really unusual part of my life. I had been running other businesses as well.
You're a magazine publisher also?
Thank you. APN News and Media made quite a large acquisition of magazines that I had up and down the coast of Queensland, and gave me the great opportunity to go away and travel with my children for about a year, which was absolutely wonderful experience. And then when I came back after we'd sort of finished travelling, Kevin Byrne was running for the seat, the mayoralty seat of Cairns again, and he asked me if I'd actually look after some of his campaign and media, and I actually had a chat to him one day and said, you know what, I'd actually really enjoy the opportunity to run in Division 6 in that area. So anyway, lo and behold, that's what I did, and that was back in 2008, and I won that election back in 2008, and then was re-elected in 2012 and 2016, and absolutely loved it, loved my role as a councillor.
And look, you've been in that role as a councillor prior to this state election campaign, obviously, for quite some time. And you had a huge margin. You were very well liked. You had a very big following. So I guess what's been the feedback out there in the community now that you've put your hand up and said, hey, I actually wouldn't mind doing state politics?
So I think that grassroots connection with the community is where I've come from. It's always been part of who I am as a person. And that is moving across into that state election role, that you can do that. You know, you can be in this strategic position of making these decisions and being part of a big government organisation, but you can do it and take that grassroots with you and just do it on a much bigger level. And that's what I think everyone needs and wants. You know, they want to have that very, very strong connection with their government representative. That's whether it's local government, state government or federal government, and that approachability is part of it. But being able to work as a community, to me, is a strength of what a great community representative should actually have. So, yeah.
I'd agree with you there, absolutely. Now, you speak about being boots and all kind of person. Speaking of boots, you've walked in with a massive moon boot on, and a lot of people have seen you out there in the community hobbling along on your crutches. Can you tell us what happened?
And I'm just going to move for a moment because it's getting a little bit
it's
awkward
getting a
there,
bit sore.
getting a bit heavy. One of those weird, what's life going to throw at you moments. I'm a bit worried about my cat because I have a cat who's 9 years of age, not old, but she was a bit funny last week, and in her funniness, she actually bit me, and unfortunately the area around the wound got infected. So I had a bit of antibiotic treatments, tetanus shots. Didn't quite settle it down, and I thought I'd just pop into Cairns Hospital for a quick little injection, antibiotics intravenously, but unfortunately ended up with 5 days in the hospital, hooked up to antibiotics and some surgery as well. So
you had surgery also?
Yeah, they had to cut it open and flush out around the wound area and through the tissues. So so I'm in mood boots for another week of my campaign. So yeah, great timing, but that's what life throws at you.
And it didn't seem to stop you though. I saw on Facebook you're on the phone, you're on the laptop, you were still answering calls.
They probably slowed me down a little bit. So yeah, so apologies if I haven't got back to some of the calls or emails. My apologies, I am getting back to them this week. So yeah.
I think it's a bit understandable.
Good timing, but it will be one of those stories, I'm sure.
Now, you've campaigned on some pretty strong platforms out there for Barron River, and I know that job creation is one of those things that's very close to your heart.
Yeah.
If people were sitting back watching and thinking, you know, who should I vote for in this upcoming election, what is it about job creation that you think we need?
Yeah, and look, job creation is so massively important for us here, and I think coronavirus has been it's brought everything to the forefront of what happens to our region when our tourism industry is as decimated as it has been. And, you know, part of that is if we don't strengthen the rest of industries around us, then it takes us a long time for us to claw back to where we need to be. So job creation is significantly important, and you know that's around a whole range of industries, and we have been going out with announcements of how we are supporting different industries where we want to move to create. And this is not just about short fixes of saying we're just going to do a small job here or a small job there. It's about things that will actually transpose over 10-year periods, so that we've got the really long periods of time where we can actually make sure that there's really good employment opportunities in this region. But I think one of the core things as well is that people need to be very, very mindful of is that we haven't been looked after up here, and the figures do really speak for themselves.
Yeah, you were telling me the figures. Can you explain to our viewers?
Yes, so one of the biggest reasons of why I am standing is because obviously over the last 12 years being a councillor, I have been privy to a lot of the information, a lot of the discussions of what is being or hasn't been supported in this area, and we've all seen it. We've seen the big advocacy groups, the Advanced Cairns, Cairns Chamber, constantly fighting for our region because we've been very underrepresented in what's been spent in this region, and I have seen it firsthand, and particularly over the last few years, and these are documented figures. So what we need to look at is how much has been spent in this region, and particularly given the fact that we punch way above our weight in what we deliver back to the whole Queensland government.
Absolutely, in revenue.
Exactly, particularly tourism, outlying industry, what
mining.
We deliver, mining, everything that comes in and out of this being a huge international destination, and how that actually bleeds out to the rest of the state. Which is why it's so frustrating for me that more emphasis is not placed on the money that gets delivered back to this region. So for example, per person, the Toowoomba region, $28,000 per person gets fed back into that region by the state government. In Townsville it decreases down to $22,000 per person. Cairns is one of the worst in the state. The money that gets delivered to this region per person, so that's every person in this state compared to Toowoomba, compared to Townsville, compared to the rest of the state, is only $16,000 per person spent in this area. That is massive, and that's my real issue, that we are one state and yet the money that's going back into this area, there is absolutely no reason why we should not be fighting for more money to be spent back in this region.
Oh, look, I think everybody would agree with you when you say that. I think a lot of people have noticed that we've been given the short end of the stick, so to speak. So it's interesting to hear those figures, and I think a lot of people would be quite shocked.
Yep, and that's the reality. So, my whole point is I am known to be outspoken. I am known to be a real fighter. I am extremely passionate, that goes without saying. So I do think that they're the questions that need to be constantly raised. They're the fights that we need to be having. Because when we keep that forefront in everybody's mind of we're one Queensland, why are we not getting more of the spend up here? And having someone fighting for that every day, that's one of the main reasons of why I'm actually running for this position.
Great. And so what is one of the other things that you're really hoping, I guess, to bring to the forefront if you were to be elected?
Yeah, so like being a very strong community advocate is extremely important for me, to be there and be a grassroots representative. You know, there's a lot of, I'll always say it this way, it doesn't matter whether you are a councillor or the mayor or the premier or a state member or a federal member, ultimately your role is to be there to look after, represent and be there so that the residents that live in your electorate have got someone that they can go to when they need help. And that is one of the things that I will bring in spades to that position, because it's one of my strengths. It's one of the things that I believe, you know, ultimately every single government representative is a community service officer. That is what we are there for. So to me, it's to be a person who is there to, without fear or favour, listen, to be there to work with the whole community to strengthen our community. Our community organisations and our sporting groups are the hub of what makes us a really, really vital, beautiful, thriving region in Queensland. So my aim is to be there and help strengthen those groups, because when they become stronger, they obviously offer so much more to the community, and particularly at a time like this, that's when the community needs to come together. They need all of those community groups to be there for them. So to strengthen them, that's a really important part of what I want to play. But there's obviously that continued advocacy for better networks for the road systems. Hugely important for us, and that has been let, unfortunately, they are the last things that are being looked at the moment, and it's been very last minute. Yeah. To me, it's making sure that they are being fought for and that they are being strongly advocated for. But I think there's another thing with that as well. It's all fine and good to say we've got the money for this, but if you actually don't take the community along for the ride of what you want to deliver, if you do not consult with them in the right way in the first place, so that the huge, vast amounts of money that could and should be spent up here are being done in the right way, then you are actually going to end up with the community not supporting the projects that are going to be delivered. So that's the way I've always operated. Bring the community in, make sure that they are part and parcel of what is being spent in the area, so that, you know, they're the people that live and breathe this stuff on a daily basis. So let's make sure we get it right in the first place and we're not actually wasting a whole heap of money.
Well, it's very refreshing to have someone that is so grassroots and out there in the community. And look, we wish you every success in the upcoming election, and we hope that you heal well and it's not too painful for you as you lead into the state election. And thank you for joining us on News and Views. We hope that you can come back and share with us your journey, and hopefully you may very well win the seat.
Thank you, and thanks for your support.
Thanks, Linda. So there you have it, folks. Linda Cooper, LNP candidate for Barron River. The election's coming up on the 31st of October. Now you've heard a little bit more from her and what it is that she hopes to bring to the role. We hope to see you next week. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch us on Facebook. See you next week.